Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is our Awakening Together weekly gathering. Each and every week we have a different minister who speaks. If you'd like to attend our services live, please visit our website awakening-together.org. Click on Online Sanctuary on the main menu. Then, How to Enter the Sanctuary. Our services are held Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary.
Okay, thanks, Santa. Welcome, everyone, to Awakening Together Sanctuary for our Sunday message. So glad to see you today. I actually went to that movie. It's based on the movie What's All About Alfie, 1965, I believe. And I was there. I wouldn't recommend the movie. It's sort of a juvenile theme to it, but there's a great message in it. So, but the song is fabulous and it's always stuck with me. So, until you find the love you've missed, you're nothing, Alfie. When you walk, let your heart lead the way and you'll find love any day. So, great message in that song. All right, join me for our invocation here. And I would invite you, and I forget who told me about this practice, but if you'll place your hands over your hearts, I invite you to do that as we go to spiritual wisdom. Thank you so much, God. Thank you. Thank you for gathering us together to help us awaken together as one. Only you know the way to true happiness, true peace, the true joy. Help us that we may receive a message today that gives us some understanding in that direction. Thank you so much, God. Amen. Okay, so the reading today is from Adyashanti's True Meditation. Reverend Kelly and I are actually teaching this True Meditation class, and so I selected an excerpt, and Reverend Kelly has agreed to be the reader. So page 48 through 55, starting with who or what I am. So I'm going to release the mic to you, Reverend Kelly.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Nice to see you all. Nice to be here with you. And thanks, George, for inviting me to be the reader today. All right, so we'll start on page 48. Section titled, What or Who Am I? In my own life, what I am primarily interested in is waking up from the dream state of identification to the truth of oneness. As a spiritual teacher, that's what all my teaching is centered around. So I suggest that people use meditative self-inquiry as a tool to help cultivate the energy of awakening, the awareness of one's true nature. However, many people I meet are actually looking outside of themselves and asking questions that are outside of their own experience. Everybody has heard the teaching, look within, and yet many of us are still looking outside of ourselves. Even when we have spiritual questions, they are often focused outside of ourselves. What is God? What is the meaning of life? Why am I here? These are questions that may be relevant to the personality, but they are still not the most intimate question. The most intimate question we can ask, and the one that has the most spiritual power, is this: what or who am I? Before I wonder why I am here, maybe I should find out who this I is who is asking the question. Before I ask, what is God? Maybe I should ask the who am I, this I who is seeking God. Who am I? Who is actually living this life? Who is right here, right now? Who is on the spiritual path? Who is it that is meditating? Who am I really? It is this question that begins the journey of spiritual self-inquiry, finding out for your own self who and what you truly are. So step number 1 is having a spiritually powerful question, such as, who or what am I? Step number 2 is knowing how to ask that question. Again, I have noticed that very few people know how to ask a spiritually powerful question. If we don't know how to ask, then we'll just end up lost in our minds. We can sit around thinking forever about who we are. We can read spiritual discourses, philosophical discourses, religious discourses on who we are and why we are here and what this is all about. We can do that forever. And what we end up with is more thoughts, more ideas, more beliefs. Not what we really need, which is a flash of insight, a flash of recognition into the truth of our being. Spiritual inquiry actually helps cultivate that flash. So how do we ask the question? How do we find out what we truly are? The way of subtraction. Before we actually find out what we are, we must find out what we are not. Otherwise, our assumptions will continue to contaminate the whole investigation. We could call this the way of subtraction. In the Christian tradition, they call this via negativa, the negative path. In the Hindu tradition of Vedanta, they call this neti neti, which means not this, not that. These are all paths of subtraction, ways of finding out what we are by finding out what we are not. We start by looking at the assumptions we have about who we are. We all have many, many assumptions that we don't even realize we have. And so we start to look at the simplest things about ourselves. For example, we look at our minds and we notice that there are thoughts. Clearly, there is something or someone that is noticing the thoughts. You may not know what it is, but you know it's there. Thoughts come and go, but that which is witnessing the thoughts remains. If thoughts come and go, then they really aren't what you are. Starting to realize that you are not your thoughts is very significant, since most people assume they are what they think. They believe they are their thoughts, yet a simple look into your own experience reveals that you are the witness of your thoughts. Whatever thoughts you have about yourselves aren't who and what you are. There is something more primary that is watching the thoughts. In the same way, there are feelings. We all have emotional feelings: happiness, sadness, anxiety, joy, peace. We have feelings in the body, be they feelings of energy, a contraction here, an openness there, or just an itch on your toe. There are various feelings, and then there is the witness of those feelings. Something is witnessing or taking note of every feeling you have. So you have feelings, and you have the awareness of feelings. Feelings come and go, but the awareness of feelings remains. And although we need not deny any feeling we experience, it is important to notice that our deepest and truest identity is not a feeling. It cannot be, because there is something more primary before feelings arise, and that's awareness of feelings. The same is true for beliefs. We have many beliefs, and we have the awareness of those beliefs. They may be spiritual beliefs, beliefs about your neighbor, beliefs about your parents, beliefs about yourself, which are usually the most damaging, beliefs about a whole variety of things. Beliefs are thoughts that we assume to be true. We can all see that our beliefs have changed as we have grown, as we move through a lifetime. Beliefs come and go, but the awareness of beliefs stands before the beliefs. It is more primary. It is easy to see then that we cannot be our beliefs. Beliefs are something we witness, something we watch, something we notice, but beliefs do not tell us who the watcher is. They do not tell us who the noticer is. The watcher or the noticer, the witness, stands before the beliefs. The same thing goes for our ego personality. Everybody has an ego and everybody has a personality. We tend to think that we are our egos, that we are our personalities. And yet, just as with thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, we can come to see that there is a witness to our ego personality. There's an ego personality called you, and then there is a watcher of the ego personality, an awareness of the ego personality. The awareness of the ego personality stands before the personality. It is noticing it without judging, without condemning. Here we've started to move into something more intimate. Most people believe they are their egos and their personalities. But a simple willingness to look into your experience reveals that there is personality, and then there is the witness of personality. Therefore, your essential, deepest nature cannot be your personality. Your ego personality is being watched by something more primary. It is being witnessed by awareness. With that, we arrive at awareness itself. We notice that there is awareness. Everybody has awareness. If you are reading these words right now, it is awareness that is actually taking this in. You are aware of what you think. You are aware of how you feel. So awareness is clearly present. It is not something that needs to be cultivated. Awareness is not something that needs to be manufactured. Awareness simply is. It is that which makes it possible to know and to experience what is happening. Who is aware? Generally, we think unconsciously that I am aware, that I am the one that is awareness, that awareness is something that belongs to me. We presume there is some entity called me who is aware. Yet when we start to investigate this meditatively, quietly, simply, we start to see that while there is awareness, we can't actually find the I or the me who is aware. We start to see that this is an assumption that the mind has been taught to make, that I am the one who is aware. When you turn inside and look for who's aware, what is aware, you can't find an it. There's just more awareness. There isn't a me or an I who is aware. In this way, we are still subtracting our identity through this deep investigation. Through looking at what we are not, we are actually pulling our identity out of thought, feeling, persona, ego, body, mind. We are pulling our identity back out of the exterior elements of our experience into its essential nature. No sooner do we get back to awareness itself than we encounter the primary assumption that I am the one who is aware. So we investigate that assumption. As we investigate it through our experience, we discover time and time again that we cannot find out who it is that is aware. Where is this I that is aware? It is at this precise moment, the moment when we realize that we cannot find an entity called me who owns or possesses awareness, that it starts to dawn on us that maybe we ourselves are awareness itself. Awareness isn't something we own. Awareness isn't something we possess. Awareness is actually what we are. Now, for some people, for most people, this will sound radical. This is because we are so used to identifying ourselves with our thoughts, with our feelings, with our beliefs, with our egos, with our bodies, and with our minds. We are actually taught to identify with these things. Yet through our investigation, we start to see that something stands before thought, before personality, before beliefs, something that we are calling awareness itself. It can flash upon us through this investigation that we are awareness itself. This does not mean that there are not thoughts. It doesn't mean that there's not a body. We're not in denial of ego or personality or belief or anything else. This is not a denial of all these exterior elements of our human self. We are simply discovering our essential nature. Bodies and minds and beliefs and feelings are like clothing that awareness puts on, and we are finding out what is underneath this clothing. It could be quite transformative to realize that you are not what you thought you were, that you are not your beliefs, that you are not your personality, that you are not your ego. You are something other than that, something that resides on the inside, at the innermost core of your being. For the moment, we are calling that something awareness itself. The radical nature of this insight is not that awareness is something you possess, or that you need discipline or need to learn how to do. Awareness is actually what you are. It's the essence of your being. And not only is awareness what you are, it is also what everyone else is too. And that's it. Thank y'all. Thanks, George.
Thank you, Reverend Kelly. Perfect reading. That was a long one, so but there's a lot packed into that, and that's just a portion of this book here. So I think one of the reasons I was guided to select this was just the realization that the spiritual path can be very distracting. The Course says that one of the last challenges is the spiritual ego. The spiritual ego is just who we think we are. And of course, the bottom line for the spiritual ego is trying to figure it out. What's it really all about? What is truth? The ego is never going to get it. George is never going to wake up. So here I am talking about something that none of us are going to awaken to as a person. And yet there's something within us that is beyond the person, that sense of awareness that many of us have had a glimpse of, and yet it seems to elude us to the degree that we would like to be aware of. So, Adyashanti started teaching in 1996. He studied under a Zen teacher for 14 years, I believe. And let me just read a little bit. He can say it better than anybody. Adyashanti found that the most seasoned meditators had used the practice as an end instead of a means to an end. So, as we go into having a practice of meditation, which I would suggest that most of us probably don't have a meditation practice to the degree that maybe we think we should. I know mine is haphazard. Sometimes I do well and other times I don't, according to my judgment of George. But we need to, manufacturing corporations have a process called best practice. So what is the best practice in meditation? And unfortunately, that's not an easy question to answer, because spirit, we are on a program that is specifically designed for us. Each individual has their own path, and the paths all are merging into one, but spirit is going to guide each one of us differently. And so meditative self-inquiry, how to make the effortless effort that will verify the present moment. Meditative self-inquiry and the way of subtraction, how to ask a spiritually powerful question and determine the real answer. And we've been taught that awakening is difficult, explains Adyashanti, that to awaken up from the illusion of separation takes years, but all it really takes is a willingness to look into the depths of your experience here and now. True meditation gives you the opportunity to reclaim the original purpose of meditation as a gateway to the objectless freedom of being. So that if you're not familiar with Adyashanti, you get a little flavor of who he is. Now, got some good news for you. You're farther along than you think. None of us really know where we're at until we get there, but you're further along than you think. Especially as we get older, we think, well, gee, I may be running out of time here. I don't know if I'm going to get it at all. That really doesn't matter. The individual is not going to awaken. Excuse me. Paul Hederman, whom presents most Tuesday evenings, has said in his presentations, when people say, I don't really get what you're talking about, he says, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to that spirit within you, and you're never going to get it. So just listen. And, I talked about this flash of intuition. At some point, as we continue on this path, we will have this flash of intuition. This flash may be a kind of a brief, it's sort of like seeing something out of the corner of your eye and not really knowing what it was or what it is. or it may persist for a little while, or you may get to the point where that is your state of being, that you have awareness. You know, Helen Hamilton says one of the problems is we think we need to go somewhere. We're already there. We are already there. We are already awakened. And yet somebody forgot to tell the ego. So we keep going forward and putting some effort into it. So you're further along than you think, and yet none of us really know where we are. We can sort of look back and see, well, gee, I've made some progress. But the thing that I keep going back to, I don't know anything, and yet I trust that spirit within me is guiding me perfectly. So it doesn't matter whether I achieve that rarefied state of what we think awakening is all about or not. It doesn't matter, because at the end of this body's life, George is going to go away and that spirit will continue on. You know, we're not awakening individually so much as we are awakening as one. There's only one of us. There's one of us, and we're all awakening together. It just looks like, you know, it's sort of like a pan of popcorn. You know, we're all in the fire, but we're all going to pop at a little bit different rate. So, I don't know who said this, but I saw this and I wrote it down. So keep going, because you did not come this far just to come this far. And as I said, we've got good news. You know, those of us that have found this path of the non-dual path are amongst the few people in the world that even have an awareness that this exists. So, whereas a very small percentage of the total population of the world are going to kind of awaken in this lifetime, those on this path, and it's, you know, not just awakening together, but other non-dual paths, have a much greater chance of awakening. You know, it's more like 50-50. And, you know, I don't know, you know, Spirit has to reveal this to us. It's a matter of revelation and trust that if it's supposed to happen, it will. And if it's not supposed to happen, that's perfectly okay too. You know, in Genesis in the Bible, God created the heavens and the earth, it says, and then he created separation. Basically, Adam named the animals, so he separated them out and named the animals. And God looked at his work and said, "It is good." You know, I'm sort of paraphrasing there, but you know, there is nothing wrong with this world. There's nothing wrong with the way that it functions. It's all God. And so it may be our time. It certainly is our time to have a greater realization than most of the illusionary entities in the world. So, all right. One of the things that I really thought about was, you know, we all consider ourselves to be an individual and everybody else is a separate individual. But I think what we're really doing, if you really want to know who you are, just look at anybody else. The truth of who you are is within them. It's a different personality, a different body, a different age, and all that stuff. But as we look at other individuals, we're looking at the reality of who we truly are. And I think part of the awakening process, and I'm talking about something I don't know anything about yet because it hadn't happened for me, but as we awaken, I think we have that realization that all is well. Regardless of what it looks like, all is well. So let's go back to the reading here. And this is the process, as I understand it, that Regina subscribes to, is using meditative self-inquiry along with meditation. So, and I was listening to Regina's clarifying program from this past weekend, and she talked about meditation quite a bit. It's quite a few questions on meditation. So and just a disclaimer, anybody that quotes Regina is probably misquoting her. So we quote what we hear. So I'll just say that right up front. I write down some notes sometimes as she's talking, and maybe I write it down differently than how she said it. So, but it's my best interpretation of what I'm hearing from her. So I'll just throw that disclaimer out there. So Adyashanti says the most intimate question we can ask is who or what am I? There's a lot of things that we can focus on. But if we're focusing on the world from an egoic standpoint, and it's almost impossible not to do, as we're focusing on questions, most of the questions that come up that concern, most if not all, concern the affairs of the world are dead end. The ego, and there's only one ego too. I mean, we all think we got different egos, My ego is different than your ego, but it's all really one ego. And I was thinking about this the other day. You know how these media platforms like Facebook, they will customize as you click and as you like and as you dislike. They will basically build a custom program for you, for your entertainment. I was looking at my wife's Facebook page the other day and scrolling down, and she doesn't have any of the stuff I've got. I think that's sort of the way that God works with each one of us. Each one of us has our own path, our own program that we're following. So, and of course, I'll go back to the Bible. When Jesus finished his 40 days and 40 nights and was tempted by the devil basically offered him anything that he wanted in the world. And he, basically said, I control the world. I can give you anything you want. And of course, Jesus saw through that, because the devil is just another aspect of God. The devil and the ego I consider them to be about the same. So, so if we focus on manifesting in the world, that's not with the purpose of finding out the truth of who we truly are, we're just going down the wrong path. And there's probably billions of paths, just like there's billions of people. We all have a different path. So it's so easy. And it's, as we look around to the spiritual practices and religions of the world, we can see that there's been some distraction, that they seem to be focusing in areas that are really not going to get them where they think they're going. So So he says the most intimate question we can ask is who or what am I? I gotta watch the time because I have a tendency to talk too much. So who is the I that is actually living this life? So there's an awareness within each one of us. And so meditative inquiry is having a powerful spiritual question. And step number 2 would be to ask, knowing how to ask that question. And again, I have noticed that very few people know how to ask a spiritually powerful question. So I'm quoting Adyashanti here. If we don't know how to ask, then we'll just end up lost in our minds. And that's basically how we live our lives. We're lost in our minds. So, that Christian concept of lost in your sins, basically sin, really, it just means missing the mark. So we're just going in the wrong direction. Sort of like a ship, though, especially in the terms of sailing days where the sail was the power, they'd have to tack. They'd have to go this way, and they'd have to go that way, and this way, and that way. But they were going in the right direction. So that's the way I envision us. We're going in the right direction. And in World War II, they used that technique because it was a safety issue. They went this way, and they went that way, and they went this way because there were torpedoes, submarines out there that wanted to not let them complete their journey. So let's stay focused so that we can complete our journey as we are guided to do so. I like this thing about it's not what we can do that forever, and what we end up with is more thoughts, more ideas, and more beliefs. And we've all got plenty of them. Unfortunately, most of our beliefs came by the time we were 7 or 8 years old. And about 80 or 90% of those beliefs are negative beliefs. So that's what we believe about ourselves. And we project that into the world. That's what we see. We're looking at the mirror of the world as really who we are. It's who we are from a thought of separation. So what we really need is that flash of insight, a flash of recognition into the truth of our being. Spiritual inquiry actually helps cultivate that flash. So how do we ask the question, and how do we find out what we truly are? So the next section that we talked about was the way of subtraction. So one of the ways to find out what we are is to see what we are not. And that's exactly what he says here. Before we actually find out what we are, we have to get past our assumptions. And we start by looking at the assumptions about who we are. So we've got many assumptions. We don't even realize how many assumptions we have. It's best to start looking at the simplest things about ourselves. Thoughts come and go, but that which is witnessing the thoughts remain. So, there's, you can kind of think of thoughts like a radio broadcast, in the old days, before you could just push a button and it would search stations, you could actually turn a dial on the radio. And and you could just keep turning that dial, and you could, I remember particularly as a kid, we had very limited number of stations, but there would come a song or a advertisement or something, and we would turn the dial and keep finding, trying to find something that we liked better. So our thoughts are kind of like that. So if we're listening to the thought channel, doesn't matter what the content is, we just have to realize that as entertaining as that can be, and I think most of us consider our lives to be pretty entertaining, whether we like them or not, that it's not really the right channel to be listening to. So starting to realize that you are not your thoughts is very significant. Since most people assume they are what they think. I remember this textbook in college. I forget his Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." You know, that's what we believe. We think, therefore we are. We also have feelings. We have, emotions, anger, joy, fear, etc. And we also have feelings of the body, the five senses. But our deepest and truest identity is not feelings. It cannot be, because there's something more primary before feelings arise, and that is awareness of feelings. And the same is true for beliefs. I think most of the people here realize that their beliefs are really just beliefs. They're not the truth. And yet, George likes his beliefs as opposed to somebody else's beliefs. And I noticed that I certainly realized that it's only beliefs. So the watcher or the noticer in witness stands before beliefs. Same thing for our ego personality. I call the ego our devil. So there's an ego personality that we call ourselves, and then there is a watching of the ego personality, awareness of the ego personality. I hope you can't hear my dog barking in the background there. So, anybody want a dog? Most people believe that they are their egos and their personalities, but a simple willingness to look into your experience reveals that there is personality, and then there is the witness of personality. With that, we arrive at awareness itself. We notice that there is awareness. We can make ourselves unaware. When we go to sleep at night, the conscious part of us kind of loses awareness, except as we fade in and out and sleep. But, we can dull our awareness with drugs or various addictions, and we can continue in that vein. So you're aware of what you think, and you are aware of how you feel. Awareness simply is. So who is aware? Generally, we think unconsciously that I am aware. There is awareness. While there is awareness, we can't actually find it. The me or I who is aware. We start to see this an assumption in the mind, and we've been taught to make that I the one who is aware. When you turn inside and look for who's aware, what is aware, you can't find an it. There is just more awareness. There isn't a me or an I who is aware. In this way, we are still subtracting from our identity through this deep investigation. No sooner do we get back to awareness itself than we encounter the primary assumption that I am the one who is aware. And so we can investigate that assumption. Then it starts to dawn on us that we may ourselves be awareness ourselves. Awareness isn't something we own. Awareness isn't something we possess. Awareness actually is what we are. So we're not in denial that we have an ego or a personality or a body or feelings, etc. We're simply discovering our essential nature. Bodies and minds, beliefs and feelings are like clothing that awareness puts on, and we are finding out what is underneath this clothing. For the moment, we are calling that something awareness. Awareness is actually what you are. It's the essence of your being. And I see my time is about up here. So I hope this has been something that has been fruitful. And keep going. Just because you didn't get this far just to come this far. So as long as we have a breath in our body, we can just keep on going. And I am going to end it here. I will mute myself and Sina can play a song. So if anybody cares to donate, Sina is going to put a link in the chat room there. And thanks so much, everyone. Love you guys.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.